in those moments, it's really so intense, and there's such a focus on what you're supposed to do in your crew position and working together with your crew to keep everyone safe that you don't really have time to think about how scary it is in the moment. It really kind of hits you afterwards when you reflect on, wow, that was a pretty intense situation, but we got through it and we worked together as a crew to keep everyone safe.
Well, nearly 6 million Floridians have been told to leave their homes before Hurricane Milton makes landfall in just a few hours' time. It's the biggest storm in a century. And in the last hour, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, gave this update.
Hurricane Milton is still a major, very strong hurricane. It's currently a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 155 miles per hour. That is just a whisker shy of a Category 5. And while there is the hope that it will weaken more before landfall, there is high confidence that this hurricane is going to pack a major, major punch and do an awful lot of damage.
That's the governor of Florida. The storm will make landfall at 9 p.m. local time, and it will hit the Tampa Bay for the first time. It's the biggest thing since 1921. We can talk to Matthew Capucci first, who's a senior meteorologist at My Radar. Hello to you, Matthew.
Hey, good to see you.
Good afternoon to you. Describe to us what it is that's just about to hit Florida.
Well, Milton was a Category 5 storm. It is quickly weakening right now, but even though it was a Category 5 and it's weakening, it's still very strong. It'll come ashore likely as a Category 3 with winds probably in the 180 to 200 kilometer per hour gust range, at least in the beginning, but then tapering back to about 120 to 140. That said, all that wind will pile water against the coastline, leading to a potentially devastating storm surge of up to 3, maybe 4 meters in spots at the immediate coastline, because all that water is literally being shoved inland. And so we're hoping folks will evacuate inland or vertically from that flooding. Yeah. Where I am in Sarasota, there are squalls right now. It's raining, it's pouring, the wind's becoming a little gusty. That's nothing in comparison to what's to come later tonight.
Goodness me. Just explain to me these apocalyptic descriptions from officials in Florida that this storm will not be survivable if you're in its way, that if you don't leave, you will die. I don't recall hearing that kind of language before.
Truth be told, I honestly hate when officials do that. I hate when they use scare tactics. People just need to understand the very simple advice: run from the water, hide from the wind. Yeah. You can shelter from wind. You cannot shelter from water, though. And so if you have a wall of water moving ashore, if the ocean is bulging up by 12 feet, so 3.5, 4 meters, you'll drown. Ultimately, I'm hoping people do move inland and they heed the warnings, but I don't like the idea of having to basically threaten people like that. The conditions are threatening. We shouldn't be threatening them.
Why? But what's the harm of being very, very clear and dark in your warnings? It makes the point. Why do you dislike it?
From a psychological standpoint, if I said to you, if you stay put, you're going to die, and then you don't, that's going to empower you to make the wrong decision time and time and time again in the future. So I don't like issuing warnings like that basically say, hey, do this or else you're going to die. I'd rather say, if you stay, we'll be a threat to your life. And if that's true, surge is a potentially deadly thing. It is life-threatening, but yeah. I don't like the verbiage of, using these sort of dire scare tactics. It's a dire situation. Communicate the threats. Don't, communicate, as if you're personally threatening them.
All right. Good to get your thoughts. Thank you, Matthew. That's Matthew Capucci, the meteorologist at My Radar. Now I want to welcome the hurricane hunter, the Captain Nate Wordal. He is the of the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron, a pilot in that squadron. Good afternoon to you, Captain Wordal.
Hey, good afternoon, sir. Thank you for having me.
It's really interesting to talk to you. So your job then is to fly into hurricanes.
It is, sir. Yes. As soon as we believe something's starting to form, either in the Gulf or off the Atlantic or Pacific, and we'll send our crews out to do our low-level investigations to determine if there's circulation. And then as the storm builds and grows and becomes a hurricane, we fly it through completion, giving that data to the National Hurricane Center to give them more accurate information for their models.
Right. I mean, you sound, I don't know, commendably calm about the whole thing, which I suppose is a prerequisite of the job, given what your job is. I have actually seen footage of what's going on inside your aircraft while you're doing this duty, high in the air during a ferocious storm. It looks absolutely chaotic. I mean, how is it possible to function, to gather data, to do it all perfectly calmly and in a collected way in those conditions?
Well, sir, in those moments, it's really so intense, and there's such a focus on what you're supposed to do in your crew position and working together with your crew to keep everyone safe that you don't really have time to think about how scary it is in the moment. It really kind of hits you afterwards when you reflect on, wow, that was a pretty intense situation, but we got through it and we worked together as a crew to keep everyone safe.
Yes. I mean, there's no doubting, I suppose, the danger of what you're doing. I'm sure you apply an enormous amount of professional skill, but there's no getting away from the fact that it's a very hazardous occupation. Has your life been in serious danger doing what is your job, Captain Wordal?
I would not say serious danger. Everything we do in the Air Force has a very high level of safety to it, and we make sure that we can exercise that to the fullest extent possible. And being a reserve unit, we have so many years of experience on our crews. Even if we do have a younger pilot, like a couple years ago when I first got here, just in my first year, I still flew with members who had been a part of the unit for 15, 20 years. So every little bit of lack of experience is made up by other crew members' years of it.
Right. Is this the fiercest hurricane that you have experienced in your time? You've made many flights. Is this the worst, the biggest?
Actually, I believe this is the biggest hurricane I've flown in. It's been, back and forth with Category 4, Category 5, but the most severe I've ever flown was actually a storm, I believe a couple years ago now, Hurricane Larry out in the Atlantic, and thankfully that one didn't do much in terms of impacting really any populated areas, but that was definitely the most crazy storm I've ever experienced.
Okay, well, I wish you well as you carry on doing what is a clearly very important job. Nate Wordal, thank you so much. Nate Wordal there is a hurricane hunter. He flies into hurricanes, gathers the data, takes the pictures, so the rest of us have a better idea of what on earth is going on.